You're listening to Design Between the Lines, the only design and home furnishings podcast where we talk with the movers and shakers, industry innovators, and lifetime legends of the home furnishings industry. It's here that I get a chance to sit and chat with the influencers shaping the industry into what it is today. This episode of Design Between the Lines is brought to you by Strictly Santi, award-winning designer David Santiago's trademark brand, known for a clear, distinct vision that transcends from residential to hospitality design. David's unique and custom upholstered furniture, lighting, and wall coverings have his signature touch of color and graphic element. His collections are made to order and available through strictlysanti.com, American Brass and Crystal, and Bijou Wall Coverings. Embrace the unexpected and get ready to be santified. Joining us is Wesley Mancini, an artist whose fabric designs have become an indispensable facet of the entire home furnishings world today. His work has been conferred with numerous honors, including the International Textile Alliance's inaugural Lifetime Achievement Award, the Arts and Science Council's Honors Award for Lifetime Achievement in the Field of Design, and Home Fashion Products Association's Home Tex Award. Wesley's work extends beyond design, however, as he has become a requisite part of the Charlotte, North Carolina community through LGBTQ+ advocacy, philanthropic donations, and board involvement. Wes, welcome to Design Between the Lines. Glad to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm going to go all the way back. Let's go back to the beginning and tell me a little bit about what attracted you to the design industry, to design in general. What brought you into that direction in your life?
Well, growing up in a small town in Connecticut, the only unusual person that there was the art teacher. So I wanted to be an art teacher, actually. So I went to Philadelphia College of Art to just do that. I finished that education in 3 years, and my fourth year, I decided to go into fiber. The reason being, I tried all the different mediums from ceramics to photography to painting and drawing, but fiber was the media that really sung to me because it seemed like it was the highest aesthetics.
So you moved from the art school into, I believe, further education into the fiber and textile world. Is that correct?
So after I finished that fourth year in fiber, I went to Cranbrook to get a graduate degree in fiber art. During that time, however, I figured that I wove a piece, and it took maybe 6 months, and I realized I wasn't really going to make a living if I was going to take that long to do one piece, and that's when I decided to go into fabric design. And I took a year off and went to Philadelphia College of Textiles to study the technology side of the fiber world, and then went back and finished my master's degree.
Wow.
Weaving fabric.
Were there any particular, as you went along through your educational process, were there any particular inspiring educators or people of inspiration to you personally or mentors that you came across?
At Cranbrook, the head of the fiber department was Gerhard Nordell, and he was really one who kept me going and has instilled the guilt of not working constantly. But also Jack Leonard Larson, who is a renowned fabric designer. He came from Cranbrook, and the whole Cranbrook history is Knoll and the higher end contract business. So that's kind of where I was headed. But things didn't turn out that way.
Well, you blended very well the aesthetic and the technical on fiber and textiles. I mean, is there a favorite of all of the various forms of textile that you seem to really be drawn to more than another?
Are you referring to like jacquard versus velvet versus? Yeah, well, jacquard is pretty much my home, but all woven kinds of textiles. I design prints as well, but to me, that's not as integral as weaving the structures of things. So dobbies and knits and jacquards, those are the things that really sing to me.
And I know you know with the Philadelphia School, et cetera, you've had some, and you've involved yourself in hands-on experience. So I'm sure when you're developing an item, a product, a design, when you can be, and it's not COVID time, present when they're doing the first run of it? I would assume you're right there.
At the mill? No.
Nope.
No,
Were you
everything's
ever there at the beginning of your time in the business?
in the very beginning. I worked for a Dobby mill, and I would do color work on the loom and also yarn trials. But that's no longer how. That hasn't worked that way in a very long time.
So it's all changed as far as the same with the development of furniture designs as well. But in your opinion, design is a very important thing in everyone's life, I think. And I'm going to ask you a little bit about how you feel design in general, whether it be for fabrics or other things, affects the day-to-day quality of people's lives. I mean, how do you feel?
Well, it absolutely affects every inch of life, because not one thing is not designed unless it's nature. So like the shirt you're wearing, the ring you're wearing, the eyeglasses you're wearing, to the bottle that, your cleaning product comes in, everything's designed. Certain things are designed for its beauty and others are for its function, and hopefully it's both.
Yeah.
But they're not always that way.
The significance of fabric in home furnishings industry, the only things we in the furniture industry think about is how it drapes over a piece of upholstery. But it's so much larger. Fabric design and how it influences everything in the home is so much larger than just a piece of upholstery. When you're doing designs, I mean, do you have a specific target in mind with a client? Are they saying this fabric will be primarily used for this function, or do they give you a wide field to play in, if you will?
Well, I've historically had my own line of designing my fabrics, and I would create just whatever I felt I wanted to create, and then they would sell it to the customers that it was appropriate to. So I always included things that kind of went to a majority, many different kinds of customers, from the more volume-oriented to the more decorative to the more traditional to the more contemporary. So the line is usually, it's not one note.
It is not one note.
It's all different price points, all different looks.
I wondered what that, and that's with each design. You're having to think this out as you're going through your process, which brings me to your design process. How you look at the process of design, how you approach design. Can you enlighten us a little bit about what your process is like?
The process is kind of ethereal. It's hard to pinpoint. It has to start with a concept and an idea. So if I, decide I want to, well, right now, I'm very into indigenous textiles of the world. I was into Moroccan, but now I'm kind of more multicultural. So Ghana and Burkina Faso, just looking there for research. Or also I can do research for different kinds of animal skins. So trying to find an eagle ray, a certain kind of stingray, or a certain kind of shark, to find new ideas of skins. So we'll do research first on that kind of concept, find different pictures of eagle rays, let's say, and put them together and then kind of create a piece of art. Everything that we do is made with original art. We don't buy it anywhere. So we're kind of unusual in that way. And then the art is also created with the concept of the construction that fabric's going to be turned in. Because if you're going to do something that's a tapestry, you would paint it a certain way, versus if it was on an end-to-end warp with 3 layers of filling and box motions, which are very complicated. It's painted in a, technical way, but keeping the aesthetics in mind. And so then weave structures are applied, yarns, costs, all of that is done. So the process, it takes time. It's not just one step. It's an evolution over weeks, because sometimes it can take weeks to make the art. And then it has to be edited, and there's aesthetic decisions being done at that time. And then the fabric will get woven. And from there, we still have to judge it, see if it worked, if there's lines, if it's too stiff, if the weaves are too flimsy or too tight, or they're not adequate to be next to each other.
My gosh, I'm thinking there's so much craftsmanship involved in this. From what I've read of your process, you've shared some notes with me prior to our time here together. You really are and require of your team a fine craftsmanship to each part of the process, and I compliment you on that. It's very few people in the world have the attention to detail that I've read about with your process and how and learned from you a little bit about what you do and what you expect of your team. How do you feel that relates to your competition, others that are out there that you've seen? And well, let's step back to the time when somebody who shall remain nameless blew up the fabric industry in the United States, and suddenly mills were disappearing left and right here, and they were coming out of Asia, let's say, and other places, and with very little design talent, and with a lot of copying, very little craftsmanship. I mean, it was, if it could run on a machine or print or what. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts about that time and how the industry responded, because I'm really interested in hearing this, because I know, having built the story of where you came from so far, I know that it's so important to you that be spoken about. Look what happened to this industry, and it didn't have to happen.
Yeah, that was tragic. It still is upsetting.
Yeah.
But when I started my company, it was just me, and we grew to 30 designers from all over the world. London, Seoul, Shanghai,
And this was back
St. Petersburg.
What period of time?
This is in the 80s and 90s. So artists from all over the world. And I really enjoyed building the company, and we were doing great. Almost all of a sudden, overnight, the country was flooded with foreign textiles, most of which were knockoffs of what we were doing, to the warps, fillings, to taking the art and just tweaking it ever so slightly. I remember walking into furniture market, and one sofa was my fabric, and on the other sofa was the knockoff of my fabric. And of course, one was a lot more expensive than the other, because, they would sell theirs for a fraction of what we sell ours, because people would make an hour here what they would make in a week. So you could not compete with that. I remember going to a textile show in Shanghai and walking through and seeing my fabrics in many different lines.
Yeah.
So, that was, upsetting.
Yeah.
But that was the way it was. What it did is it really, instead of relying on constructions and looks that were selling, we had to constantly evolve. We used to evolve a little less slower. Now we evolve a lot faster. It's pretty much nonstop.
So speed to market has really increased when you match it up against the time of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Okay. Have you seen a branding change in the major fabric lines? And part two of that question is also, have you seen fabric lines either joining together or one buying another, or a lot of movement of the brands, either creating new brands or one brand buying several others? Have you seen a lot of that happening since the change in
There's a great deal of that merging and acquisitions that's happened. Some successful, some not so successful. I think the most successful of two jobbers, of Cravat in particular and Fabricut, where Cravat is amassing the largest jobber companies, I think, certainly domestically, between Lee Joffa and, Mulberry, Brunswick and Fee. They just have quite a few companies. And Fabricut also has S. Harris and Vervain and other ones. As far as mills go, mills have been purchased and lost. I don't think there's any successful stories other than the ones that are still strong. Yeah. The largest mills in the country.
Yeah. I can understand that. Here's a question. When we're talking about the mills and then the changing of branding and the direction of things, Where do you see design going right now in fabrics? I mean, two-part question. One is, where do you see the design direction going? And how do you stay ahead of that curve? How do you stay on the leading edge of design like you do?
Well, there's kind of multifaceted there. First, performance fabrics is taking the forefront. I personally prefer natural fibers, but performance fabrics are ones that will never stain or fade in the sun or degrade in the sun. The counterpart to that for me is, we're in a society where we're destroying the planet. And so those fibers don't necessarily biodegrade. I know some do to a degree, others totally don't. Giant mills run fabrics that will never go away. And it's like, well, how are we, it's both sides of the coin here. You're trying to be good, but you don't care because you don't want it to stain. That's befuddling to me. As far as where design's going for me, I'm all about texture. You have to be able to close your eyes and feel the fabric. If it's flat as a pancake, it's not going to happen. Hand has been part of the design process, since we first came out with washed fabrics ages ago. As far as like the visual content of the design itself, if it's a jacquard fabric that has a drawing, I mentioned earlier about multicultural textiles, I'm all about that. I've been about that for at least 2 decades, reaching to a broader audience, but taking inspiration from cultures from around the world. I traveled to 43 countries so far, and that's part of my process.
Is that inspiration from this travel?
Yes, a lot of it. Us fabric designers go to the same fabric shows, so you can't necessarily be inspired from the fabric shows, because otherwise everybody's going to look alike.
Look like off the shelf, huh? Yeah.
We're all going to be inspired by the same thing. So this is my shade of green. This is my shade of green. This is my shade of green. This is my shade of green.
Yes.
So,
I get that. Oh my gosh.
Drawing from elsewhere is important for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned environmentally conscious fabrics, and let's just talk about that for a minute versus the natural fibers and things that do on purpose degrade over time, so that they're not having a half-life of 10,000 years underground. Is there somewhat of a trend in that respect from the younger generations coming up, becoming purchasers of fabrics and products with fabrics on them? Are they tending to push the envelope and saying, hey, makers, we need to have more product that can be environmentally conscious?
Veltis has a line called Sequel, and it's made of recycled plastics from the ocean. So I think that's an important thing. I'm not 100% sold the public's going to buy it, even though because it's more expensive. In the past, when we came out with organic, they didn't buy it because it was more expensive. Mm-hmm. So I still think they're speaking out of both sides.
Yeah.
We want it, but we want it cheap, and we want it cheaper than what we can buy the other stuff for. It's like, it doesn't come that way.
It sounds like an old story too, one that's been repeated many times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm just hoping the youth of the world can get beyond the price and pay for what they want.
Yeah, and ask for what they want. Make sure, because they're going to be the ones that people are going to have to satisfy.
The problem, right? Also, of the planet.
That's true. What significance is there to storytelling? And you were just literally telling a story about that. We were talking earlier about places you've been to. What significance is good storytelling in design? I mean,
in my world, 0, because to me, the fabric is the last salesperson. Mm-hmm. The fabric, when you walk into a design showroom, you're going to see all these fabrics. And if it's not like the most beautiful thing that strikes your eye, you're not going to go to that fabric because someone said, I was walking down the beach and the waves splashed the rocks and I was inspired by that. If you don't know that by looking at the fabric,
then you hear the word next.
So to me, it's all about the fabric. It's got nothing to do with the story.
What equates to you? What equates with excellence in design? When you see a well-designed fabric and you're impressed, what's impressing you when you look at that?
That absolutely every aspect of the fabric is perfect. The art is amazing. There's no lines. It's well drawn. It's fresh. It's unique, and it's beautiful. The weave structures are amazing. The yarn combinations are new and unique. The hand is, awesome.
Yeah.
It's durable. It's well put together. It's just all the things that I would click in the studio. So it's design perfection.
I couldn't imagine. That's a wonderful definition. Thank you. Thank you for that. You mentioned in some notes when we were basically writing each other back and forth, and we talked on the phone, you mentioned a need for a fabric design revolution. What does that entail?
Well, I'm not sure what it entails, but it's something we certainly need. Fabric design is a field that's invisible. You don't know how many times I've told people when they ask me, what do I do? I say, I'm a fabric designer, and I've heard, I didn't know someone did that. It's like, well, the fabric doesn't fall from the sky, And I've watched like Candace Olsen on TV on her show go, I based this entire room on this beautiful fabric. It'd be my fabric.
Yeah.
But, all the colors are out of this fabric. And it's yet, well, who came up with the fabric?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? So there are, if you go to the D&D building in New York, which is, 30 floors, 20 floors of fabrics, representing jobbers and mills around the world, that is full of fabric designers. And those are people that are unknown. The companies that buy fabrics, decorative jobbers, they put their name on them. If the furniture manufacturers who buy fabrics, they put their name on them. Even, when there's celebrity collections.
I was about to ask you that, yeah.
Usually it's the jobber or the furniture company that buys the fabrics and puts the licensed designer's name on it when they had nothing to do with it.
Well, you're not alone. The entire furniture industry is like that. Apparently we have a lot of invisible designers out there that actually do the job.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't strike you as funny that, when you go to Europe and you see designers' products at some shows and the designer is there and the designer is mentioned and the designer is touted and they're presented in magazines and on television and so forth more than a personality is. I mean, how did we not learn that and bring it back here? Apparently we gave up somewhere in the ship across the ocean. I don't know what happened, but
I think it used to happen here.
Back in the day.
40, 30 years ago.
Yeah, back when Frank Lloyd Wright and even before 40 or 30 years ago, when you see the architects getting accolades and now it's this person's name building. It's not a wonderful square, rectangle, octagon, whatever. It's the name of that person and the building. So
the ones who pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, again, there's another invisibility problem, but gosh. Wes, your role in Charlotte's LGBTQ plus community has been significant, and you've had, and I'd like to know a little bit about the impact your organization has had.
Well, I was involved in being out my whole life, moving from Connecticut and art schools to the South. It was quite a culture shock. Everyone back then was in the closet. They were so-called straight at work, but gay after work, which to me was like, you're not fooling anyone, but people were afraid of losing their jobs or hitting the glass ceiling. So they were all closeted. Mm-hmm. In 2000, Charlotte had the Angels in America performed on the largest stage in the city, and it was picketed because there was a 7-second nude scene. Mm-hmm. The nude scene was of a patient dying from AIDS. He was covered head to toe with lesions. So the point of the scene was for the audience to feel empathy. But instead, the religious right saw it as sex, that it was gay, so therefore it was about sex, and it was picketed. And then the city council decided that it was going to pull all funding from any arts organizations, whether it was theater, ballet, museums, anything that had a gay theme or even a gay character. So that was point blank discrimination on a citywide scale.
Yeah.
So I started a foundation with my own money called the Wesley Mancini Foundation, and we fostered the inclusion of the LGBT community as full participants in the greater Charlotte region, as well as promoted freedom of speech, because that also was against freedom of speech.
Yes.
And so we ran for 13 years, gave money to things like gay-straight alliances in high schools, to documentaries on how religion promotes hatred, and, just so on. But closed after 13 years due to the Obama administration was going on and things were getting much better. And also I was running out of funding since it was my money, and you know how the textile industry has gone.
Yes. Oh, it's true. That's true. But that's quite generous of you to support that and build understanding in your own community, which is my hat's off to you. How has the industry developed and transformed over the last 4 decades, in your opinion?
In regard to design trends, it was a very traditional market. And as it's evolved, let's say 2 decades ago, it became more transitional. And at that time, I was really questioning where the aesthetics were going, because I felt like poor drawing skills were coming out of schools, and I couldn't decide whether the chicken or the egg came first. Like, people are drawing more poorly because that's what they're getting, or is that really the trend? So that's one thing that evolved, and now we're very contemporary, in my opinion, more on the transitional contemporary side, and with tweaks of traditional coming back. As far in regard to how the society of the furniture market has been, when I was starting, it was primarily a gray-haired straight man's world. There were 4 women of any importance, period. Mary Stevens from Waverly, Abby Gilmore from Covington, Porter DePiro from Dublin, and Virginia Jackson from Celanese. Virginia was a color forecaster. Everyone else ran those companies. Other than that, there were no women. And then there was, maybe one international saleswoman. But as time evolved, there was a one woman sales rep and then another woman sales rep. So now it's evolved to, I would say there's a lot, at least 50-50. And more women in higher up positions. So that's evolved. What hasn't evolved is the complete lack of people of color in our industry. People who come to the fabric showrooms, furniture companies that buy fabrics, or decorative jobbers that buy fabrics, there's really a void of people of color, whether African American or Asian, Indian, and there's also very few LGBT people. That's one area that the industry really does need to evolve.
There needs to be an outreach. There needs to be some way for those of us who are in the industry to reach out and say, this is a career anybody can have, and it's something you should aspire to.
And right now, with the focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's really important that we don't get behind.
I agree.
We need to take action now.
Are the associations trying to work get that started?
There's been discussion, but so far it's discussion.
Okay. Well, I can say from the furniture, home furnishing side, the furniture side of it, about the same. I think a lot of conversation going on right now. I know I'm one. I'm sure you are as too. We're one of those who wants to push that conversation to action. I'm guessing you're the same. Yeah. So, well, let's hope that happens, and hope folks that are listening understand that no matter who you are, coming to our industry is a great career to have. How has your involvement on the many boards that you're serving on right now and that you've served on recently in the community impacted your career and your personal growth? Can you enlighten us a little bit on that? I know you're on many boards.
So I would say on my personal side, it made me realize that I have a different thing to bring to the table than what a lot of the business people of the world bring. It's hard to analyze a financial statement when the CEO of Wells Fargo is talking about the quarter report. But what I brought to the table was just as valid in a different way.
Yeah.
And so that was an important thing to learn. And socially, that was being on all those boards was important to me as a gay person because I was a living role model of what gay people could be and are, as opposed to the stereotypes that we were seen to be beforehand. So I hope those have gone, but that was what really got me into doing all this. As far as how what affected me career-wise was being on the advisory boards of the 3 universities that are the 3 of the top 4 fabric design universities, because I get to see what they're working on. I get to see what talent is coming. It's kind of an inside view, but also to help mold and form the direction of the departments as to what my needs are as a potential hirer.
Sounds a lot like that energizes you when you're talking with students and things like that they really, it kind of builds you up a little bit, as well as obviously giving them the benefit of your experience and expertise and someone they know they can trust when you give them advice. So
it's kindred spirits too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so while we're talking about students and investing your time with them and on advisory boards of universities, let's give them a little fun time here. Let's see. I'm going to ask you about one of your greatest successes. Pull one out of the millions that I know you've had, and then pull one we'll call a learning experience, or maybe the greatest challenge that you've had in design work and working on a project. Can you pull one of each?
Well, I can pull one of my flops. And basically, and this is a good lesson for all students, is so many times people will come to you or me and asking to get involved in a design project, which sounds great. So this particular one was for one of the major corporations in the country, not one that's associated as a mill. And they were going to come out with this new rug product line. And it had to have a great deal of design. And this is a company that's, one of the top Forbes companies. So, but they wanted help with design. I mean, meaning help with the finances that they'll pay after it gets going. So it's like, okay, I trusted the man because I knew the man for years. And so we designed this very extensive product line. And it took a year, if not longer. And then what happened was the man was replaced by someone else. And then that project was ended. And meanwhile, we weren't paid a cent. And so then I had to go to that company and say, okay, we've done this, blah, blah, blah. And this new leader said, oh, well, here's $500. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
But that's what it was. That's what I got, $500 for a year's worth of the studio's work.
Oof.
So you really can't trust anything. You have to get paid up front. You have to have a written, no matter how much you trust somebody and how big the company is.
So Wes, what gives you a wonderful feeling, a good vibe about a product that you've given a lot to? Let's say it's one of those that you designed and you were kind of thinking, this is a little edgy for me. And it's so like that people loved it. It was like you thought they would, but you weren't exactly 100% positive they would, and then it was like bigger than you ever thought it would be.
There was a time when, before I had my line, I worked for Banner, who designed for 7 Mills. And anyway, I was directed to design the ugliest thing I could design.
Seriously?
Seriously. And I did, and it sold because I just didn't know what ugly was. But I mean, it was ugly. To me, it was ugly.
Yeah.
And it sold. But also, I think something that's more is when I see fabrics in movies. That's something that I like because I have no control over that. It just shows up.
And you go, I did that. This is a good feeling. What is your advice to young people that are considering this as a career, or students right now that are thinking about what do I want to do with my design career?
I would say first follow your passion. Whatever you're the most passionate about, that's the direction you should go in. I'm passionate about pattern. So I've never gone to work a day in my life because I love what I do. So it's not like having a job. Being a designer is exactly that. You're designing for other people. You're not creating one-of-a-kind art that satisfies your own specific needs. And so when you do that, you keep in mind what's going to sell. As far as, I see portfolios from students and they'll have rodentia, or snakes or bugs. And, you don't see that in furniture market or, so it's like, that's a personal creative expression, but as a designer, that's not suitable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And although it's very common, I would say try to make things that you don't see in regard to structures and weave structures. Color comes and goes. It's that's constantly ebbing and flowing. So many people think they have great color sense, but I'm not quite sure where that color sense fits in. But it's a learned aesthetic. Wherever you go, it's a learned aesthetic. If you design for high end, it's a different aesthetic than for more volume.
What's next for Wes? What do you got going on that you can tell us? It's not secret. Where are you headed? I mean, you talked about earlier how you're really grabbing on to textures now, and we were talking about, you mentioned Morocco, and then you kind of mentioned a couple of other locations that are inspiring you. What's next for you? What are you thinking about these days? What's the next thing on your drawing board?
Well, we're finishing the next season, so we're already kind of starting the new season, and it evolves as we go along. Since we don't buy art, we don't have a table full of art to select from. The art's created, each one individually, as we move forward. So if next week I decided that I wanted Cruella de Vil fabric, then we would start creating a Cruella de Vil fabric, but that's not where we're going.
Yeah.
But I am designing for all the brands of Valdez Weavers now. Before I was strictly Home Fabrics by Wesley Mancini. So that is adding a little variety between Inside Out and Valdez line and Circa line.
You mentioned Inside Out, and I think in the furniture industry right now, that the whole thing about bringing the inside outside is a huge, huge success. I mean, it's gone gangbusters. Of course, I don't know how many people want to sit outside on a sofa in the rain, but you got to have some kind of something over you. But they just bring beautiful things outside now, and that wasn't the case 10 years ago. Is that a big trend, obviously, in the fabric business?
Well, a lot of it is due to the performance of the fabric. So they're actually bringing what could be outside inside so it doesn't stain.
Speaking of living with kids and the last year and a half
Dogs.
of COVID.
Yes.
Yeah. You find out what does and doesn't last in a home when you use it every single day for a year and a half. Well, you're right about that. Let's hope we can combine the ability of the fabric to wear well with its ability to, over time, decompose and go back to Mother Nature. Mm-hmm. I hope that's going to happen.
It's happening.
Is it?
But it needs to happen a lot faster in my book.
Wes, this has been an absolute pleasure talk to you today. I'm so happy that you could take the time to come up from Charlotte and visit with us here in little old High Point. Thank you very much for bringing your time, your talent, your energy to our conversation.
Well, thank you for having me. Glad to represent the first fabric designer.
It's great to have you here. Design Between the Lines is produced by Element Studio with the International Society of Furniture Designers. We record in High Point, North Carolina. To find videos of these podcasts, be sure to subscribe to the International Society of Furniture Designers YouTube channel. To learn more about ISFD, visit isfd.org. And don't forget to subscribe to hear more industry stories of design between the lines.